All right, everyone. This morning I had to check on several Twitter users to make sure, we have to take the shoelaces and the sharp instruments away from them, I guess, right now. Kristi Noem yesterday endorsed Donald Trump. It was the kind of speech that you would generally expect from someone who knows that they're on the short list for a running mate. And so naturally, the Desantis fans are livid. Kristi Noem, you may remember, is one of the, I think, 2 governors in the entire United States who never really took any official legal action with regards to the hysteria Hong Kong that we went through a few years ago. There were no mandates in South Dakota. She's the governor of South Dakota. North Dakota, a close second, and then you have like Texas and Florida and a few other states were very limited in their response. It was very temporary. But of all the governors in the entire United States, the only one, I believe, to my knowledge, that never passed any form of legal stringency with regards to that hysteria was Kristi Noem. So when one of your big selling points, at least to certain crowds on the internet, is, Don the honk salesman or something like that, having Kristi Noem decide to endorse him instead of your guy must really hurt. So I went throughout some of their pages. Just go to Max Nordal at any given time, because he spends literally 24 hours a day retweeting other DeSantis accounts, and then you can get a good reading of the room among the influencers that like DeSantis. Not all very influential, but there's a core fan base there that's very gung ho for him. And they're all pissed. It's just balls to the wall propaganda too. Kristi Noem overnight going from a hero in their estimation, which was positively compared with Trump at times, somebody who they liked, to lower than dirt. Well, the Heritage Foundation gives her a lower rating than DeSantis. Chew on that one, magats, and stuff like that. And talking about how she encouraged people to download a tracking app during that same hysteria. Notice there's no mandate associated with that at all. Encouraging people to stay home if they feel sick. Not forcing them to, as some governors literally did. You look at other governors, there were business closures and forced social distancing. You can get a literal ticket for not doing so, etc., etc., etc. Business restrictions, capacity restrictions, like 50% of seating in a restaurant or something, only dining al fresco, only takeout. That never happened in South Dakota. So again, into certain parts of the internet, that's the main selling point for Ron DeSantis. Well, Ron didn't lock down, although he did. It's just that he didn't do it as much as most governors did. Kristi Noem dwarfs him in comparison with regards to the sensibility of her particular response, which is still hotly debated now by chuckleheads who don't understand the science is pretty much settled on the topic, but will say no more other than vague terms for the purposes of a video that goes on YouTube. We have to mince our words here. I'm just talking about, I'm talking about the Ebola epidemic, of course, YouTube, Hong Kong. Anyway, Kristi Noem's endorsement carries weight. She's definitely on the upper tier of the short list for potential running mates for Donald Trump. She's right up there with Carrie Lake and a few other people. Matt Gaetz might be on that list, actually, at this point. I don't know if that'd be the wisest decision. He seems to do pretty well in the legislative capacity, sort of like Rand Paul. It's like, okay, he did worse than that, but they don't seem inclined to executive capacity. It's like I would like Rand Paul as the running mate myself, but Kristi Noem is probably well ahead of him in the terms of the rankings. You could do worse. Again, I would put her on the upper end of the B tier as far as likability among the people that are probably being reasonably considered. So you've got Rand. He's distant. He'd be my A+ candidate, but he's distant placing as far as he's not on the short list. You've got Gates, possibly. Boebert, possibly. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is on the lower echelon. I don't think she's on the short list. Tucker Carlson may or may not be. Trump's keeping it kind of close to his chest. He's playing his cards close to his chest right now, probably trying to confuse the Uniparty. Because as soon as he announces a running mate, of course, they'll probably face legal pressure. The feds will definitely dig into all of their business dealings and try to find something that they can indict them for. He's probably aware of this. He's waiting till closer to the general. Kristi Noem would be good. Again, there's that. She's very pro-gun. I don't personally like her thoughts about abortion, but again, it's more saleable when it comes from a female, typically. And the fact that she is female, while I don't believe in id poll, and I think this is unhelpful, from a strategic point of view, would be helpful with part of the public. The other thing is she's on the younger side for a politician. She's only 51. It'd form a counter because, of course, one of the things that will be debated during the election, especially if it's Trump v. Biden, is age. Joe Biden will be in his mid-80s. Trump will be, in his late 70s. There's an age question there. Well, what if we elect this person? You might be electing their vice president to the presidential position. Therefore, for some voters, it would end up boiling down to which would you rather have as the unelected first female president? Kristi Noem, who is rather well-spoken, reasonably likable in the personal capacity. She seems like a decent person. I think that's how she comes off. Or Kamala Harris. I think it's advantage Kristi Noem on that one. But then again, Donald Trump could choose no running mate at all, and it could be Kevin McCarthy that's next in line and still probably beat up Kamala Harris in a debate. I'd say there's a good chance that Noem ends up running mate, based on what I'm seeing there. My main focus, though, is on all the salt from the Desantis fans. My God, they're livid right now. I haven't seen them this angry before, actually. They're getting more angry at Kristi Noem, again, a person that they generally liked until, 24 hours ago. They're more mad at her for her endorsement because they know that it matters for multiple reasons, ideological and strategic. They're more mad at her than they've been at, anyone, basically. They're more mad at her than they're mad at Trump for winning against their chosen candidate. I think it's rather sad. It's more like, at some point you're going to have to end the farce primary and just understand that the voters within the Republican Party are rock solidly behind Donald Trump and that your Hail Mary probably doesn't go anywhere because he arguably could win the primary from the Mar-a-Lago under house arrest with an ankle monitor on. That shows the weakness of the rest of the GOP field as well, by the way. DeSantis had his shot, and he blew it. He had every right to enter the race. I initially said that he'd be a great running mate and that if he won in a fair primary, I'd support him. My cutoff was HB 269. I'm in the minority, by the way, on that issue. Most people don't even know it exists, which is why I try to make them aware, hey, Ron DeSantis directly attacked the First Amendment, but you keep praising him for being a constitutionalist or something like that. And then he made a series of blunders. He just made mistakes. He chose to respond belatedly and improperly to Trump's indictment by trying to take a swing at him at exactly the worst time. It's good to hit your opponent. Oh, I don't blame DeSantis when DeSantis calls him a name or something like that. It's hilarious. But you got to choose your timing. The strategic end of the DeSantis campaign is what rankles me. He would not win, in my opinion, in a general election. Biden could decline by a couple more points and probably win. The polling, by the way, reflects this. Trump roughly breaks even, running well ahead of where he was in 2016 or 2020, especially the latter. DeSantis comes out a couple points behind with less of a core fan base and the impossibility at this point of getting probably even a majority of MAGA voters if he were nominated. It's effectively Trump or bust. Kristi Noem helps to seal that deal further. She's a governor with some degree of clout, rather popular in her state, also rather popular nationally. She's got some name recognition. She's been bandied around for a few years as, hey, she's sort of an up-and-comer. She could be president someday. She'd certainly be someone's running mate someday. She's sort of got the it factor as far as the personal charisma goes. She's got a decent record. I see a few things there I disagree with, but in the overall scheme of things, I think I support her more than I would unsupport her on most issues. Yeah, you could win with that ticket. You could definitely do a lot worse than Kristi Noem. And that seems to be the direction he might be leaning towards. It seemed like a much more friendly, jovial affair than usual. Oftentimes, Donald Trump, you can tell, he's just sort of there to pitch himself. He doesn't seem to have much of a bond with the person that's, on stage next to him, announcing him or making a speech or whatever. Like, when he would make appearances with Christie or something years ago. In this case, it seemed more like, hey, haha, my old friend, how would you like a cabinet position? It might be the second most powerful executive position in the country, so make sure your speech is good, woman. That's about all. Peace out.